I think what you'll find when you've heard from both Phil and Ariana, that the research highlights what we think and what we've described as centralisation on steroids. In other words, virtually every single move that has happened in the last 40 years has taken powers away from local government and centralised those in Whitehall.
There are two reasons why I wanted to see this research commissioned. One is a personal one. I was a local councillor, and I've watched with dismay, really, as the things that I could do when I was a councillor a few years back, I've gradually seen the power to make a difference to local communities taken away bit by bit, and it's been harder and harder and harder for councillors to make a real difference. I mean, they do their best, they use what powers they have, but they don't have the finances that I had, and they don't have the resources, and they don't have the freedom that I have. And the second thing is that we are unlocked democracy. We are, our business is democracy. We care about democracy. And, specifically in our constitution, we talk about decisions being taken as close as possible to local people, because we think that's the best way to get the best decisions.
In the current context, there seems to be an assumption. There is a lot of debate about the concept of sovereignty, but there is also an assumption that sovereignty is something that belongs in Westminster. But actually, that is not necessarily true. In a healthy democracy, power should not reside in the hands of few at the center. Indeed, local councils provide the first point of contact between politics and people, and local government is and remains the backbone of our democracy. And that is why it must regain its sovereignty in its greater independence, financial autonomy, and constitutional protection.
I hope that you find that the research findings have underlined the importance of us having a strong local democracy. There's some interesting graphs where you can compare the level of trust in a local authority and a separate graph in terms of the level of autonomy that local authorities have. And the level of trust in a local authority goes up at the same rate as their independence goes up. So the more autonomy they have, the more trusted they are by local people, and more trusted certainly than the central government is in those surveys. So that's why we have launched this campaign. So the campaign is based around a pledge. It's a pledge we think that all political parties and candidates from political parties, and indeed candidates who are not aligned to any of the political parties who are standing on May the 6th can support, because what it says is that it would commit them to work to turn the tide on this centralisation, to support greater independence for local councils, more financial autonomy for local councils, and the idea of an inquiry to look at this relationship between local government and national government, really to lock in powers for local authorities. That, I think, is an agenda which everyone can support, and I hope that everyone who's getting elected would want that as part of their platform.